Hello and greetings everyone, Darth Cold is here with yet another video about Star Wars. This time I want to talk about a topic that is kinda dear to my heart and misunderstood by many fans that only know the movies and the TV shows. And this one is about canon and video games about Star Wars. Now, I kind of mentioned this already in previous ones, but I also had a big discussion with a guy that otherwise knows Star Wars really well. And yeah, man, so many fans think that the video games are not canon, and that is just not true at all in the slightest. Indeed, some of the video games could be considered more canon than most of the books and most of the comics. I'd say that even like the entire Force Unleashed 1 and 2 video games are technically speaking higher canon than the TV shows because they were partially produced directly by George Lucas himself. If you don't know, Galen Merrick, the main character of Force Unleashed 1 and 2 video games, disciple, pupil, apprentice, whatever of Vader, is also named Starkiller, and Starkiller was George's original name for Luke and Anakin. They wouldn't have been called Skywalker, they would have been called Starkiller, kind of foreshadowing the Death Star killing stuff like that. And it also was a badass name, but he thought that it would make sound Luke too evil and a little bit too scary, so he renamed him to Skywalker, but the original name for Luke Skywalker was Luke Starkiller. And a lot of people say, well, Galen Merrick is not canon and never has been canon, never will be canon, and kinda forget that Galen Merrick was partially, mostly created by George himself. George loved this character so much that it was one of the few gaming studios that he actually visited in person and advised the writers in person as George Lucas on the character and the writing, because he really liked the character. For many who don't know, George Lucas was also a big fan of video games, not in terms that he played himself, I don't know about that, but he was one of the first people in Hollywood I'd say he was the first person in Hollywood that realized that games had real entertainment potential and there was big bucks to be made and big audiences to be won, because ever since the Nintendo early 1990s, there are Star Wars video games that came out. Probably even before that, because George really saw video games as an opportunity to tell stories from a different angle and tell more stories and tell stories to a different audience, and he really was into financing projects for video games. George was a brilliant mind in terms of business, and he was really big on creating fantastic worlds and giving us a more interactive way of consuming Star Wars content. So George really liked video games as a form of telling stories, which is why he directly advised many studios in the creation of video games. Now, for those who don't know how the old canon used to work, it was George. Whatever George said tops everything else. TV, T canon, then C canon, continuity canon, that's the books, that's the comics, that's video games, and then there is the non-canon, which is basically all kinds of stuff that are alternate timelines or that are fan-made projects, and that's the point that many raise, video game mechanics. Like Galen Merrick, in order to regain force, he can collect dots that are laying on the ground that once he walks over, he gains force power back. Or he sees a little dot cube circle thing in somewhere in the stage, he collects it and has a new force power. Obviously that's not how you obtain force powers, obviously that's not how force works. That's just a mechanic. However, Starkiller and so many other characters are actually canon, as in C canon, and some could be argued to be G canon because they were directly made by George himself, just like Ahsoka was partially Filoni, partially George, and Galen Merrick was George's big baby. Actually, the only reason that we don't have more content of Starkiller is because the economic crisis really hurt LucasArts at this very time, because George wanted to make Starkiller into much more. There was a third game in development that had to be cancelled, sadly, in favor of other projects that he did. He wanted to give Galen Merrick a movie and a TV show, which sadly also got cancelled. The actor, however, was still taken for other projects. He's playing Darth Maul in some projects, though he originally was cast to be Galen Merrick on screen. So for all those people that say Galen Merrick was never canon, never will be, because he's way too powerful and way too wonky and weird and whatever, he is the closest thing to canon that any video game ever achieved, because he was this close to getting a movie or a TV show, or both actually. He was this close, and only the economic crisis made that not happen. But he was supposed to get a TV appearance, which would introduce him to legit T-canon, and technically speaking G-canon. Now, he isn't even the only character that happened, video game character that got promoted from C-canon to T-canon, because there is many Star Wars characters originally from video games that actually made appearances in the Clone Wars and in Rebels. So those are T-canon even though they originate from video games. So that happens, that's a thing. And we have that same thing happen to comic characters and so on and so forth. So many originally C-canon characters became TV show canon, and thus a higher form of it. Which, by the way, Disney said that the only canon that's still around are the movies and the TV shows, Clone Wars and Rebels, and nothing else. Hilariously so, that would include Galen Merrick to some degree. That would well, maybe not directly, because it's not, I don't think he's ever directly mentioned, but who is? Tula Kord is, Mark Haragnos is, Revan is. So many of the Old Republic and Ancient Sith did make it into the TV shows and are thus considered canon by Disney's own standards, which means that technically speaking, the entire thing that Disney didn't want to restrict the writers with old canon and stuff like that, did restrict them with old canon, because that means that everything that happened in the comics, or at least happened including Tula Kord and Mark Haragnos, actually is Disney canon as well. Everything that happened in the Old Republic around Darth Revan, all of that is Disney canon as well. That is Disney canon, because Disney said so themselves, which does again mean that all the nice restrictions that they want to remove would technically speaking still be in place. They just kind of forgot about that, I guess, like Benioff and Weiss style. For all of those people that say, well, okay, maybe some characters are canon, but their powers are not, right? So how can you say that then? Because Galen Merrick is obviously stupidly powerful. Like, he is kinda breaking some other rules that George set up, because George also once said that no character can ever be more powerful than Luke Skywalker. And if you watch, well, he contradicted himself, I did a video on that too, but Galen Merrick, I have a hard time seeing how Luke is stronger than Galen. I don't see Luke, even Grandmaster Luke isn't that level of powerful. He's powerful, don't get me wrong, he has some really cool powers that we don't ever see on screen, but Galen can top that. Also the entire cloning Force sensitives, many fans said that's not canon, you can't clone. Yeah, Palpatine did that, not just in Disney canon but also in old Legends canon. So yeah, he was basically Galen Merrick was Palpatine's guinea pig for cloning Force sensitive bodies. That was actually one leading up to the return of Palpatine, which George actually had planned himself. So that's not something Disney came up with. They just copied that from George. Is it a good idea? I don't think so, because it really lessens Vader and the entire story arc of the previous movies. But technically speaking, yeah, sure. You know how powerful Galen is. He actually managed to fight Vader and Palpatine at the same time and live. Now tell me Luke is more powerful than that. But whatever, he was... and at the same time he fought his own clones too. So, yeah. That being said though, Galen Marek has a very short story, because both games combined I think last for 10 hours, maybe. I don't know how long it took me. I think about 10 hours for both. So it's not that much of a game there really. There's not that much story happening overall, though you could easily make a movie. You'd need more than a movie. I think that what happens in there is so packed with content, with so little filler in between, that you could legitimately make a trilogy out of those two games. You could, especially with the third planned game for Galen Marek. Now, with that said, his powers are crazy, though not impossible. And he is not even the most powerful character in Star Wars by a long shot. He is just pretty good. Also, my screen is somehow turning off for some weird reason into pause mode, because it usually doesn't do that while I'm recording. Anyway, my videos are unscripted and unedited, so sorry for that. That being said, Revan, as example, video game character that made it into canon, and there's so many cool things happening in the video games that are absolutely at least C canon, if not even T canon, and all the fans that say, oh, that's not canon, are just wrong. It always has been canon. It always was canon, and some of it was even highest tier canon, and some of it is even Disney canon. So for all of those that say that the video games don't matter, you're just plainly wrong. Now, there is some things in video games, as I said, that could be considered non-canon, but there's also some things that are going into alternate timeline, because some games, like the KOTOR games, have different outcomes, like they have different endings, and only one of them is the canon ending. Just like Revan is canonically a dude, even though you could make him a female when playing, and Mitra Surek being canonically a female, even though you could make Mitra a male in the game if you wanted to. Same goes for the endings, like the light side endings are the canonical ones, though I really think they should have... It's just so boring if the light side is always the one winning and always the thing that... But that's George for you. So, okay, I guess. Even Galen Marek, who had such a badass Sith vibe, kind of turned Jedi later on, and... I mean, to be fair, Star Wars needed that, because by far most often, like, I think almost every single side switch is from Jedi to Sith, so that a Sith turns Jedi has had to happen at some point, and I think Galen Marek is an okay candidate for that, but it's also so kinda not fitting his character in my opinion. Though I have to say that it's funny that the thing that kinda turns him is his girlfriend, because Jedi don't allow that. they ask Anakin. But this could have been a great love story, by the way. I think that she was the best character in both games. And there's a super annoying druid, just like Revan had with HK, but yeah, that's that. Other video games, some of them introduced characters that are absolutely badass, even though they may seem similar to already existing ones, they are not. Like there's this, this was a very old game on the N64, this was a badass Star Wars game, I have to look up what that actually was called. The main character of that was very clearly inspired by Han Solo, even having a ship of that looks almost identical to the Millennium Falcon. That dude went on to do some of the craziest achievements that a force sensitive ever did in Star Wars. Great game, by the way, great character, also canon. Same goes for the Jedi Knight series with Kyle Katarn, absolutely canon, the guy, and what he did. And he is, just like Luke, technically speaking, actually a great Jedi in the common understanding of the word, even though George doesn't like that, but he, just as Luke, uses Force Lightning and some other dark side powers, so that's that. Jaden Core, fantastic story, definitely one of the cooler ones in the video games, and also a canonical story, just like so many others. And some of you might have heard of a game called SWTOR, or Star Wars The Old Republic Online, the MMO, and that is actually George's baby. Because when I say that it's George's baby, when the crisis hit, he had to cancel so many projects due to the financial issues, but he cancelled everything else but that. That's the one game that he thought Star Wars has to do, absolutely 100% has to do. If there's only budget for one single project of Star Wars ever again, it would have had to be SWTOR. And I have to say, SWTOR, I've played it. It's definitely the best Star Wars game out there. I know many KOTOR fans will now be mad at me, but KOTOR has shit gameplay, let's be honest. The remakes may rectify that. The stories are good, the characters are good. RPG wise it's good, but it doesn't really offer anything that SWTOR wouldn't offer. Like, if you like good, well written stories, most of the 8 character stories that you have for SWTOR are really good, and they are really well told, and you have great companions each. You're not having the same companions for all of them, you have so many companions for each character class that you can play, so many, and it really gets you into the Star Wars mentality and mindset, and how the worlds work, and how people of different factions think, and how the life of a trooper was, how the life of an Imperial agent was, how the life of a Sith warrior was. It was really like, I can't I don't know any Star Wars game that is immersing you more into the world of Star Wars than the SWTOR games. It also takes place on basically all the cool planets, introduces a huge load of fantastic relevant characters. I think, I'm not sure if I'd crown it as BioWare's best, because I think that's still Mass Effect, the trilogy. And I'd say Dragon Age 1 was also better story-wise, but it's definitely the best MMO I've played in terms of story. Gameplay, not so much, but story-wise, RPG-wise, immersion-wise, that's the best MMO I have ever played, and I have played like all the major ones, the Final Fantasy, I've played the WoW, Guild Wars 2 obviously, Elder Scrolls Online, even the one from Amazon, damn, what was it called, New World I think, Fallout 76. I played a lot of MMOs, and this is definitely by far the best one story-wise. It almost feels like a single player game. Really great. It also has housing, which by the way many MMOs have, but in special earlier ones usually didn't. So I think it was about one of the first that actually had decent housing options. Great game, really, I can highly recommend it, especially now with the new update 8.0 coming up, and definitely watch the cinematic trailers. I think the cinematic trailers for the SWTOR game are probably the best introduction to Star Wars you can give a non-Star Wars fan, like someone who has no idea about Star Wars. I think the SWTOR cinematics are the thing to get people interested, because they are not overly long. Like, if you say you have to watch the original trilogy, I have to throw away 6 hours of my... Nah, they won't do that. 10-minute trailer, well, that sounds more reasonable, you know, and they are so well done, so well choreographed, so well, good CGI, so well told, interesting, much action. I think the SWTOR cinematics are fantastic, definitely great to get people interested in more. Generally speaking, I think the Old Republic line, history-wise, is the best timeline that Star Wars has, and it's really sad that we haven't seen it on screen yet. Hopefully not with Filoni, but just fantastic. And yes, the video games are absolutely canon. Now, some people would say, but the character classes and how you rank up and the point distribution and learning force powers, that's not canon, is it? Yes and no. What's definitely not canon is, oh, I open up a screen and then I put one dot in Force Lightning, now I can do Force Lightning. That's obviously not how it works. But that certain characters can learn light and dark side powers at the same time, that is canon, and that actually there is some characters that have that. If you look at the SWTOR games, I think they did a really cool thing because they actually cemented Grey Jedi as a thing, and they cemented Grey Sith as a thing. If you follow the Chasa Williams story, she's actually one of the Sith that actively hunts down Grey Sith because she thinks it's disgusting that Sith use the light side of the Force. But they do, and some quite prominent ones did, and there is no reason why Sith couldn't use the light side, same as Jedi could theoretically use the dark side. It was just frowned upon by both orders, and if you want to achieve true mastery, you have to focus on one side. But there were Grey Sith, there were Grey Jedi. That's a thing. That's actually canonical. The entire thing. I'm starting to ramble, and ain't I? So yeah, video games canon. Not every single last one of them. As said, alternate timelines don't count. They are never considered canon because they would f up everything. But in Special Gale and Merrick, absolutely canon. Absolutely worth your time, absolutely brilliant writing, and as said, even by George himself. So for all of those who say video games don't count as canon, F you're wrong. For all of those who love the video games, keep on playing. For all of those who don't know the games, I think the Force Unleashed 1 and 2 are nice little games to get yourself a little bit of Star Wars fun without a major time investment. The KOTOR 1 and 2 games are hailed as the best games ever, at least in the Star Wars universe. I don't agree, because while I agree that the story is good and the progression of the character is good and the writing is good and the dialogue is good, like Darth Traya is like Yoda on steroids. She's so wise, spitting facts and really done well. At the same time, the gameplay is insufferable. I don't know if the remakes will fix that, but the gameplay is so outdated. I who grew up with games like that, am bored to death by the gameplay, and I did use cheats to not have to deal with the terrible fighting system all the time. Yeah. That said, the SWTOR game, best MMO writing wise, the one from the N64 was really solid. Actually the what was it called, the X-Wing, the game with Wedge Antilles as one of the main characters, Rogue Squadron, also for the N64. Chef's kiss, one of the best fighting chat slash aerial combat kind of games out there. Definitely fantastic. I like the gameplay, the ranking up, the story, everything, the vessels that you can steer and use. Absolutely fantastic. It really makes you fall in love with some of the more technical sides of the universe. Yeah, like you will know the difference between the different A, Y, X and A-Wings, because you actually fly them. You actually know their strengths and weaknesses by the end of the game very well, and you will appreciate one or the other. And actually, the X-Wing is one of the bad ones. The X-Wing is an all-rounder. He can do everything a little bit, but he's not really good at anything. In universe, Wedge Antilles kinda disliked the X-Wing. It was outdated and was meh. A-Wing was one of the most well liked in the actual Rogue Squadron. It was Wedge's favorite as well, because the A-Wing is super fast, but it doesn't have that much firepower, which is why I didn't like it. My personal favorite was the Y-Wing, because the Y-Wing has he's not as well armored as the X-Wing, but it's almost as fast as the A-Wing, and it has the biggest firepower of all, though the cannons do overheat over time, so you can't keep firing like crazy. Then again, for burst damage, best ship out there. The Y-Wing sucks, and everyone agrees in universe and out of universe that the Y-Wing is the worst of all of them. But you can also unlock the TIE fighters and the TIE bombers and the TIE interceptors, and this game made me love the TIE interceptor so much, because this thing is faster than an A-Wing. It has the firepower of a Y-Wing without the cannons overheating. Only downside is that it's really weak in terms of having basically no shields. So you are very quickly dead if you make a mistake. That said though, you won't get hit that often if you're that fast. And I'm rambling again, I know. Actually, the old Sith ships were much better. Like the Sith Interceptor was so much superior to everything else, but whatever. Other good Star Wars games. The whole Jedi Knight series, absolutely amazing. Kyle Katarn is such a cool character, though I have to say that the first two games they aged really badly. Like, if you want to play them, have a walkthrough ready, because otherwise you'll spend hours in the same level just searching for a way to progress, because it's not obvious and sometimes really well hidden. So you really need a walkthrough to get through that. And the graphics and gameplay are not really up to date at all. This game badly needs a remake, more so than the KOTOR games. Jedi Academy 3, however, I think is still very good. Like, all the issues that 1 and 2 have are gone in 3, and 3 is just so much fun. I think it's also the one that I replayed the most. And Jaden Core, also fantastic character. You have so much fun to play with this. And obviously, how could I forget Cal Kestis and the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor games? If you don't know these, this is actually one confirmed that gets a next part, a next installment. Like, they are currently working on Jedi, whatever it's going to be called, 3 with Cal Kestis. This is one of the few games that I'm actually looking forward to. Cal Kestis is probably the only Disney character that is actually well liked and well received by the larger fan base. He's going to get either a movie or TV show, like the actor said, that's already in production. So I'm curious what they do with the character. The only fear I have is that the people writing the TV show / movie have no idea about the character, because the creators of the character only do video games, and they said that they are done with that character after the 3rd game. Though I'm really looking forward, because the first 2 games were awesome, great gameplay, great story, great feeling. Cal Kestis, super powerful character as well, arguably more powerful than Galen Merrick, and absolutely canon, because Disney is giving him a TV show or movie. So yeah, and it's a Disney production, which means that everything Disney produces is supposed to be canon. So Cal Kestis is canon by Disney standards, and that despite him being probably the most powerful Jedi ever. Like, if you imagine a duel between Grandmaster Luke and Cal Kestis, my money is on Cal. There's a reason why the fan base calls him .5 caliber, .5 Cal, because yeah, he is amazing. So with that said, I wish you a fantastic day, and may the Force be with you.